there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Typically Legendary Devils of Routine. That's right, it's the TLDR podcast, and joining me today, as always, is Daniel. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing today?
I am doing okay, actually. Yeah. I'm usually alright, but today I'm okay. That's like a step up. Just a little step.
You sound like you need a little convincing.
No. I'm good. See that? I just upgraded from okay to good.
I see that. And your voice went a whole octave higher, too, from the intro to...
Really? I didn't know I had more than one octave.
Okay. This is quality radio right here.
Yeah. So, how's your week?
Oh, my week has been frustrating and exhilarating and just loads of fun. All wrapped up in one burrito of strange flavors.
What are the flavors?
Exciting and fun and frustrating.
Frustrating is a flavor? I want to try it.
Oh, it tastes like old carpet and moldy cheese.
Oh my gosh.
No, things at work are kind of frustrating sometimes. It's hard to get over that. It's hard to keep it in its own separate box and not let it bleed into the rest of life.
See, I'm pretty good at that. I can actually coordinate that off pretty good.
That's a skill.
As soon as you get home, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I can just relax. Yeah.
Right on.
What about in gaming? Have you done anything in gaming?
I have been playing a ton of WoW Classic. And I just recently, before the show, in anticipation for the show that we are going to do, I just recently downloaded the brand new this year title Elder Scrolls Blades. I just saw it, downloaded it. I'm going to give it a try and report back later.
All right. Well, that's an odd timing, but okay. Yeah, I have also been playing World of Warcraft Classic and Chrono Trigger, as I said last week that I would be doing. But I'm kind of an alcoholic. Daniel knows this. Not many other people know this. People in my friend circle know this, but not many other people do. So basically what happened was I got to my mage to level 52 last week, and I haven't touched her since. And I'm kind of a social gamer too, so when a friend hops on, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I would much rather just stop what I'm doing and play with my friend, unless I'm raiding, and we're just not at that point in the game yet, so it's really easy to just stop doing whatever I'm doing and play the alt with the friend. And so I have a paladin at level 15-ish that I'm playing with our mutual friends Jeffrey and Braden, and then me and Braden set up our own little two-man team of a warlock and a hunter, and we're just going at our own pace there as well. And it's pretty interesting because with the paladin, I've decided to tank, but of course the paladin's kind of a useless tank until level 20 when you get consecration, and then things obviously develop from there. But until I get there, I'm just this like halfway DPS that's kind of it feels like everyone else is carrying me.
Yeah.
But with the hunter, so here's the thing: I haven't played a hunter since Classic released, and I have forgotten how difficult it is to hold down a pet as a hunter. So I was really adamant about getting the best pet because I'm a min-maxer. We sort of talked about this a little bit in the WoW Classic episode. I like to take it easy and relax, but you give me the opportunity and I will min-max my way to the moon, basically. And so with the hunter, I started a dwarf hunter, and I was like, I need the best pet. I don't know anything about hunters, so I just looked up online, what's the best pet at level 10? And they were like, oh, it's the rake. I'm like, what's the rake? I look it up. It's a cat. I'm like, oh, sweet. It's a rare spawn cat that spawns frequently. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just go get the cat. The rake is located in Mulgore.
Oh, goodness.
So I ran the whole way.
For our listeners, where is Mulgore?
Mulgore is the starting zone for the Tauren on a completely different continent. And for a level 10, you have to run through level 20, level 30, level 40 zones to get to it. And if there's any monster that's like more than 5 levels above you, they basically aggro from across the field. So it was a fun run. I got there, I found the cat, and I was like, it took me probably about an hour and a half the first time to get there. And yes, the first time to get there. Because what ended up happening was I found the cat, I tamed it, and I was like, sweet, it's mine! I fed it, got it happy, hearthed back, did some hunting because I know you have to like build loyalty with your pets, and it died while I was fighting, and I was like, oh damn. So I resurrected it, but because its loyalty level was so low with me, when I resurrected it, it abandoned me. And I was
no.
I was like, oh. So then I had to, this time it was a little bit faster because I had all my flight paths. So I flew back, and from Wetlands I went to Dustwallow Marsh, and instead of traveling through Dustwallow Marsh, which is like a level 40 zone, I went north along the coast to Ratchet, and then I just cut across the Barrens. So I had the flight path to Ratchet, and then I ran across the Barrens into Mulgore, tamed the bastard again, hearthed back, and then fed it, and you have to keep it happy on its food levels, but then you also have to, like, for every 5% of your experience that you earn, it will go up a loyalty level, which sounds okay, but then there's time constraints as well. So the first loyalty level that you get from it doesn't take any time. It just takes 5% of experience. And then the next one is 5% of experience in addition to a half hour of game time.
Oh, wow.
And then that ramps up to like 90 minutes at the last loyalty rank. And at the last loyalty rank, basically it's impossible to lose your pet. So
how many loyalty levels are there?
There are 6 loyalty levels, and I'm at loyalty level 3 with the cat now. But another thing about hunter pet nonsense that I forgot about is you have to tame other pets and make them use their unique abilities enough that you learn them, and then you can cut them free and then train your main pet those like new abilities. So
no way.
The cat I got it's the best pet to have at level 10 because it has the fastest attack speed of all pets. At level 10 anyway. There's faster ones at like level 40, so but until then it's obviously going to be the king pet. But it doesn't come with any abilities. So then I had to tame a bear, which has claw or something like that. Have it use claw enough times that I learned it. Abandon the bear because I could only have a maximum of 3 pets. Tame or get my cat out of the stable, teach it to the cat, and then I had to go and find a wolf and tame the wolf and learn bite from the wolf and then teach that to my cat. And what's the difference between bite and claw? I thought it was the same thing just for 2 different pets, but one is a hard-hitting ability with a cooldown, the other one's a softer hitting ability that has no cooldown. So your pet can use all of its focus on just that ability. Anyway, headaches. Now at long last I'm sitting comfortable just waiting for Braden to come back online so we can play some more, but it was a journey and a half, let's say that.
Does it have a neat model at least?
No, it just looks like a lion.
Oh,
like a male lion, has a bit of a mane, but
which is unique to Alliance zones. You don't get much of those in Alliance zones.
So. Oh, exactly. And you wouldn't believe how many turned around and looked at me as I ran past them.
I was actually just thinking how nice it would be to play a hunter, because here's my experience. So I've been going through the zone that has Oberdeen in it.
Wetlands.
No, whatever.
Daenerys. Darkshore.
I kept wanting to say Dustwallow.
That's a thing.
Yeah. Darkshore. Yeah, so I've been questing through Darkshore, which is a 12 to 20 zone, I think.
Yeah, about that.
Okay. So, and I've eaten up all the quests available to me. Somehow, I've eaten up the quests more quickly than I've been leveling. So I'm at the end of the zone. All I have left is orange and elite quests, and I cannot do them as a cloth wearer. My gear is not high enough. I just cannot, because every mob I tag is like a level 20 plus mob that I have to kill.
What are you playing?
I'm playing a priest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a shadow priest, which doesn't have supreme healing yet, or really, it'll never get any better. But I don't have shadow form, so I take all of the damage. If I use my bubble to kind of block incoming damage, then I take it costs me too much mana, and I end up going out of mana before the fight is over. And it's an all-around frustrating experience. I've corpse ran probably in the last 2 days probably 25 times.
Okay.
So it got real in a hurry.
So you want to start a pet class then, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I was sorry, I kind of derailed myself there. I got help from a hunter to do an escort quest either this morning or yesterday morning, I don't remember. And he's like level 17, 18, right beside me, just waltzes his way in there and just bing, bang, boom, everything just melts around him. And I'm like, how is this guy? And I inspected him, and he wasn't that well geared, maybe slightly better than me, but like he did easily 3 times the damage I did, and didn't suffer any so when you're a spellcaster and you get struck by a melee or a casted attack, your spell suffers like a
knockback.
A knockback, yeah, that's a good word for it. So you end up your 2.5 second cast gets knocked back by half a second 3 times, so it ends up being like a 4 second cast. And meanwhile, your health is dropping faster than theirs, and that is not a good recipe for success.
Yes. One thing, like I said, min-max is my whole thing. So not only did I min-max my pet, but I'm an engineer, so I was able to craft my own gun, put a scope on it, all that, craft my own ammo. So I'm saving a lot of money doing it that way as well.
That's good. I'm a tailor enchanter, so I've been enchanting some of my own gear. I've been making all of my own gear that is upgrades and stuff, so I'm fairly well geared. I think I've just gotten to a place where the quests just are too much above me, right, and everything. I just need to grind out some more, maybe a level and a half of just solid, just face melting grinding.
Right. Now, before we move on to the next little bit here, I just want to, because this is going to be a bit of a long episode, I think, I do want to ask you, I lost what I was going to ask you. I love when that happens.
Oh, I was getting like the cold sweats. It was like I was a kid back in high school there. What's he going to ask me? Please don't ask me to the high school prom.
No, it had something to do with, yeah. It had something to do with your priest. But whatever, it doesn't matter that much. Let's
Talents.
move on. Let's keep going. So before we get started on our usual little act, I wanted to flash back to the previous episode because I got so tangled up in all the games we were listing that one of my favorite, or recent favorites at least, slipped out of my mind. Yesterday is an amazing story that twists time and characters in a weird, occultist fashion. Even if you don't like point-and-click adventures, this is one that I think everyone should give a chance. It truly delivers on its twists, like an M. Night Shyamalan movie done right. It's really, really unique. It keeps you guessing with which characters are who and how they all relate to each other. I would say it's from 2014, 2015, around there. But it's the kind of game that I saw somebody play it on YouTube, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I was stuck to it throughout the entire playthrough, enough that I to support the game, I bought it. I haven't even played it, but I'm the kind of person that if I see a YouTuber playing a game and I have enough disposable income to support a developer, even though I won't necessarily play the game, I buy it just to support them. So that's what happened with 2 or 3 games, but in the point-and-click genre, Yesterday, it's called, is just a really, really cool, awesome game.
I have never heard of it, and I'm afraid to Google it because apparently I pound the keys really loudly.
Yes, he does, and all the audience will know this by now. He hasn't listened to the most recent episode yet. I've tried to tone down those key clicks a little bit, but I may have missed something along the way. So, we have, instead of a news story today, we're going to do a little mini segment. But even before the mini segment, I had some things that started bugging me throughout the week that I don't know where the questions came from. I might have been watching a Game Grumps episode or compilation or something, but at some point it entered my brain some Mario questions. So, here's the thing. I thought it would fit perfect for a gaming podcast, so, regardless of their irrelevance to today's topic, I thought it'd be interesting to ask them. The first question is, does Nintendo...
Wait. So are you asking me the question, or are they rhetorical?
This is for public discussion.
Okay.
The first question is, does Nintendo hate redheads?
Does Nintendo hate redheads?
Because
do they not have any redheaded heroes?
Well, most of its good guy characters have non-radical hair colors. Like blonde, brown, sometimes black. But it something interesting enters the fray when you look at Ganondorf, Bowser, King Dedede. King Dedede is from Kirby, in case you didn't know, Daniel. King Dedede is a blue bird, but he wears like a fire red beanie. And then Ganondorf and Bowser both have fiery red hair. It's almost glowing. It's so red.
Here's an interesting factoid to slip in there. Tiger Woods, the golf phenom, or from yesteryear, I don't think he's been doing that well, but he has a philosophy where on his Sunday round, so a tournament is usually played across multiple days, but it usually wraps up on Sunday, the last round. So it's the one that's for all the marbles. And on his Sunday round, he wears a red shirt. And the idea behind it is that it's intimidating and it gets in the heads of the other players. Now, whether it actually does at that level of play, probably not, but that's the theory. So I wonder if Nintendo uses the red color to kind of denote that sort of intimidating thing. Here's the final boss, let's use lots of red to signify intimidation and evil.
Thanks for the golf interjection. You've bored people everywhere.
Yay, I love golfing. And I'm very sad because my season's almost over.
Oh no! There's a second question here. I didn't really have much to put into that red hair thing because it's weird. But I couldn't... you think of Samus Aran, she has blonde hair. Peach has blonde hair. What's the other princess's name? She has brown hair. Daisy. Luigi and Mario have brown hair. I think Waluigi has black hair. It's all very neutral colors, normal, natural-looking colors. But then the villains come into the fray, and red hair is natural, but the vibrancy of their red is far more aggressive. The second question is, Yoshi must have the most hellish life on the planet. According to Super Mario World, which not like a news segment or anything or a news article, it's a purely observation. According to Super Mario World, there can never be more than one Yoshi. When you get a Yoshi egg, it hatches into Yoshi, and then if you come across another block that reveals a Yoshi egg, it hatches into a free life. So that basically means that the Yoshi sacrificed itself so that Mario could die and live again. According to Super Mario World 2, all these different... There's a horde, a huge legion of Yoshis that all team together to make sure that baby Mario could be saved. They're all... The whole premise of that game is, delivering him from point A to point B, essentially. Yeah. And at the end of it, you think, oh, a happy ending, Yoshi and Mario are friends forever. And then, henceforth, where are all the Yoshis? It's creepy to me. It's like he had little tiny dollar signs in his eyes when he was a baby, and then he grew up and enslaved their whole race.
Mario had little tiny... Oh, I see.
Well, who else? Get with the picture.
I thought you meant Yoshi.
What?
He looks at the baby and all he can think is cha-ching.
What? All right, creep show.
Better deliver this baby. Yeah, that totally puts a weird cast on it, doesn't it?
Human trafficking.
That's who Yoshi is. That poor sucker, he needs to go to jail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the logical step. So this week, instead of doing a news segment, we thought we'd try something new, see where it goes, see if it blossoms into anything good, or if it just fizzles on the spot. And fizzling is a good word to use because this topic is about, this micro topic, I guess we could call it a mini segment, is about games that fizzled before they released.
Yeah, games that almost were, but never came to be. So I'm going to take it away then, I suppose. So the game that I decided to pick was one that was very, very near and dear to my heart. I was super, super unbelievably excited to have this game in my hands. I was ready to pay paper money to have this game. And the game, of course, that I'm referring to was the Project Titan that the World of Warcraft developers Blizzard had in the pipeline. In 2007, on the Blizzard forums, they had put out job postings for a unannounced project that they later confirmed was the Project Titan. Pardon me. Shortly thereafter, Frank Pierce at the Spike Video Game Awards in 2007 told everybody that it was going to be a recruitment tool. That it wasn't necessarily a game. It was just a way to get people in the door. But however, Mike Morhaime later referred to it as a game. He spoke about it as a game in broad strokes, as an RPG that was going to be so vastly different from the successful World of Warcraft that it wouldn't compete with the game. Shortly thereafter, it went from a small team, they gathered a whole bunch of talent, to a team that was over 100 people. So as far as game development goes, that's not necessarily a very large team. But when you consider that the World of Warcraft team has 600 people on it, 100 people is no small number, especially for a game that's just in its infancy.
Well, I was going to say that 100 definitely is not a small number.
That's true. A lot of the smaller games, the indie games, they sometimes even have a single developer. But for Blizzard games, 100 people is not super big. Mind you, Hearthstone I think when it came out, it only had 20 people on its team when it released its first iteration. So that was pretty successful, I'll say. Vice president of the game, Rob Pardo, said that the game was in the middle of development. This is at the same time in 2007, but that it would be a very big project. This is his quote, a very big project that had a long way to go. Then we kind of got radio silence for a long time on it. Nothing really got announced, and me myself as a Blizzard watcher, Blizzard fan, started getting a little bit anxious, I suppose. I remember mowing my grass at my second place in the neighboring town, McLennan, and listening to a podcast. The Instance podcast is the one it was, and I remember the host on there saying, bringing up this Project Titan, and I remember the feeling in my heart, like my face flushed and my heart sunk when he said that the game had been put on mothballs, and it was just they were going back to formula with that game, and I was like, oh no, I felt it in my guts that this was the beginning of the end for this love that I was going to have for a game. So on May 28th, 2013. 70%, Blizzard took 70% of the team and moved them to other projects, and the release date for Project Titan was delayed. Delayed was their word. Blizzard spokesperson Sean Dameron confirmed that the development status, stating that the remaining core developers would be working to accommodate new technology into the game. Blizzard president Mike Morhaime stated that the company was in the process of selecting a new direction for the project and re-envisioning what they want the game to be. He said that the game was unlikely to be subscription-based MMORPG, which is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, in case anybody doesn't know what an MMO is, and that there were no official, unannounced, or project release dates. Morhaime noted that Blizzard had gone through this sort of iterative development process with previous games, and we know that they have lots of games on mothballs. And they have what they refer to as their think tank, I think it's called.
Well,
Is that what they call it?
it's not specifically a Blizzard thing.
Right. I know it's not, but they.
It's where the
they've-
eggheads gather.
Yeah, and they've got a number of games, anyways, kind of just floating around in that basket. On September 23rd, in 2014, Morheim revealed in an interview with Polygon that production of Titan had been cancelled. This was the big one that kind of just crushed me from the inside. The cancellation of Titan was estimated by external industry analysts to have cost Blizzard at least $50 million US. Though this amount of money for Blizzard was not overly burdensome, given that the company at the time was valued over $15 billion. That's still 1/30th of your net worth. That's no small amount, and I don't imagine that the shareholders were super happy about it. These analysts believe that Blizzard recognized that unless Titan offered something significantly compelling over currently active competing MMOs, it would not have succeeded in the market, and the decision to cancel the project, despite the cost, was a benefit to the company in the long run. Now, I disagree with that statement. I would still have liked to see Titan come to light the way that Blizzard wanted it. But we do know that a couple of games were the spiritual successors of Titan, where they kind of divvied out the assets a little bit and spread them around, and we've had 2 games pop up in place of Titan, neither of which were intensely interesting enough for me to go and get the games. So we'll kind of take that with a grain of salt.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
What did you say? 15 million was a percentage of 15 billion?
50 million would be 1/30th of 15
Oh.
billion.
I thought you said 15 million. My bad. Continue on.
Well, it's good that someone's checking my math. In a 2019 interview following his departure from Blizzard, Morheim had stated that Titan was canceled because the company failed to control the scope of the game, which is interesting to me. Failed to control the scope of the game. So if I sit here and I postulate on what that actually means, to me that means that the game grew too rapidly and they weren't able to kind of tie it all together. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but that's just how I interpret that. He described Titan as essentially being 2 games developed in parallel and created development pipeline problems. Part of the team was working to make the game engine support the ambitions for the title, and this left the content developers idle with no tools to test the gameplay. And the other Blizzard executives decided that it would be better to cancel the title rather than wrangle it down. So it's interesting because the 2 games that we mentioned before actually ended up, I believe these 2 games mentioned ended up being Overwatch and, come on, help me out, Destiny. Overwatch and Destiny, which are 2 incredibly popular games in 2019. But to merge them both together, to think of what that would have looked like, I can kind of see what they're talking about.
It would have been like Anthem.
Trying to do too much and accomplishing nothing.
That's right. Except that
Which
the
Blizzard-
developers for Anthem just went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah. Well, they probably didn't have the same history as Blizzard, because Blizzard has canceled other things in the past before Titan.
Yes.
Right. I'm referring to StarCraft Ghost, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was finished. It was in post-production when they finally canceled it. Am I correct?
I know that it had an intense or extensive amount of development, but I don't know how far along it got. And Nova was the main character of it, which is interesting. Yeah.
Well, doesn't Nova have her own? She has the Nova files or something like that.
Yeah, she has her own little mini campaign in StarCraft 2.
Okay. I don't think I actually played those ones. I did play StarCraft 2, but I don't think I actually played any of the Nova.
So
Anyway.
why do you think they because what's really interesting about Titan is they didn't actually show anything ever.
Yeah,
it was all constantly internal until it canceled. And at least with Ghost, they showed it a lot of it until it canceled. And most games, you see it before it's canceled. Even if it's just a screenshot, you see something.
Yeah. The way I interpret this, so we're talking about $50 million worth of assets that they've developed over a period of, let's see, 2014, 2007 is when they started gathering talent for it. So over the course of 7 years, they were working on this game, and they had nothing to show us. So that tells me that they weren't able to pool the resources together in such a way that made any kind of cohesive sense. So if they were to release something, it would look a lot like that trailer that you showed me a few weeks ago with the baby and the football. Trying to do too many things at once. And
what game was that?
The one with M. Night Shyamalan there. What the heck? I don't remember what the game was.
M. Night Shyamalan?
I don't know.
What the heck?
The weird director. You said he makes a whole bunch of really weird video games.
I didn't say that. You said that.
You're making me look like a fool, Jeff.
I know, it's fun.
First rule of podcasting: you don't make your co-host look like a fool.
Who said that?
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Death Stranding. Hideo Kojima.
That's what I said.
You said M. Night Shyamalan.
No.
What an insult.
But yeah, it would have been very similar to that, trying to tell a story that, none of your assets are cohesive. None of them agree with each other, and I can see that being the major reason why they didn't go ahead with it.
So we don't burn way too much time on these mini segments. Let's just go right into mine real quick. So mine is The Last Night. For some semblance of game company lore before getting into the AAA Titan, which is Bethesda, this was a game by Odd Tales to be published by Raw Fury and initially debuted at E3 2017. After a more than promising teaser trailer, The Last Night experienced a combination of business, financial, and legal problems that led to several delays. Now, at this point in time, we stand at an impasse where it's virtually impossible to know whether the game will ever come out. The website promises something will eventually happen, but there's absolutely no circulating news on the game itself. So what's the problem with this? Hundreds of games are cancelled every month, right? Well, anyone who's seen the trailer for this game is always impressed, whether they like pixel art games or not, because this game creates an animated foreground and background that react to things happening in the main plane. It's a two-dimensional side-scroller in a 3D world. It's dark and gritty like Blade Runner, but alive and flashy with gunfights and the streaks of city lights and traffic, and a world that looks so alive. Its limited debuted music and sound design are so addicting to listen to. One thing's for sure, this is one of those games that, upon viewing its trailer, literally changed how I looked at games. Because indie titles with pixel art are a dime a dozen, and we take for granted that you can't do anything else with them. Then The Last Night comes along and shocks me to my core about the infinite possibilities of a virtual world. They don't give games let me reword that. I don't give games a rating before they come out, and I have never in my life given any game a 10 out of 10. But this game shook me so hard that it made me want to give its trailer a 10 out of 10 perfect score. So what happened? Tim Soray, the brainchild, forgive me if it's pronounced wrong, I believe he's French, he's the brainchild behind this game, and he did run into a little bit of controversy when people dug up some past tweets that alluded to an extreme right-wing vision of the world, but even his publisher came to his defense when the shouting started, stating he wasn't that way anymore, that his opinions have been changed. Nonetheless, it's always bad PR, but bad enough that this game fell into its infinite hibernation? I tend to think not. Is it that the developer himself lacks the drive to get her done? We have to remember that this isn't a basic pixel game. It's what could revolutionize and give the leap forward to all existing pixel games. In fact, its 1-minute trailer inspired so many people that you can now find fan games and fan videos based on the very same graphical style utilized by the trailer. Perhaps the designer lost his team. Maybe he can only animate or draw art or write story and needs a full crew to fill out the holes of his skill set. One thing is for sure, this is one of those games that I will forevermore pray that it comes out. This game is my Half-Life 3.
Yeah, and I remember I just watched the trailer before we sat down and did this, and I agree. I was very blown away. As we mentioned in a previous episode, I am pretty hard on the art team. I want things to look visually striking, and a pixel game, I will go right out there and say 99 times in 100 will not do it for me. This game is the exception to the rule. I was very surprised, very interested, and it's done in a style where the setting is not pixelated, but the characters are. So you see like water graphics that are, next level. They're 21st century graphics that are just, they look like you're out in the lake, right? They look fantastic, right beside a pixelated character and a pixelated hover car, and it's an interesting mashup of styles, and for whatever reason in this kind of neon cityscape, it works.
And for me, I've probably watched this trailer at least 100 times. It's been out obviously since 2017, so I've had some time to watch it a lot. And I can literally go to any timestamp and freeze it. Like right now, I'm looking at the 52-second mark, where the character is like stumbling. It looks like he's stumbling along, approaching somebody on the ground. You can see like really ambient beams of light that are obviously coming from the background and spilling into the foreground past the character. There's reflections off the water on the ground that look like perfectly like the things that they're reflecting. There's a real sense of distance with the extreme background of city lights in the background and shadows, and it's very cinematic. The camera's off. It's tilted as if it's following the character as he stumbles and shuffles about. This constantly happens at any point in the entire cinematic trailer. I can't even I cannot say enough about this game because I don't know anything about it. You can play a demo on their website of a game that inspired The Last Night. So they did a little game competition at some point, and the creator of The Last Night, in a 24-hour span, made a little tiny game. And it's a little pixel art game that obviously doesn't look nearly as visually striking as this game does, and they won the competition. And I'm not sure if that gave them the oomph or the finances or whatever to start doing The Last Night, but whatever the case, The Last Night is the product of this demo that you can play for free whenever you want on their website. I think their website has a bit of an Easter egg to get to the game, but anyway, I got to the game myself, and the game that's on their website is not at all impressive. Obviously, it's completely different from The Last Night, but I struggle to think of what happened. Why can't he finish this game? Because there are college students out there who have produced just little standalone videos that are 5 minutes long that are based in a world like this, where it's like a 2D side-scrolling 3D world, like a very hybridized world, and it's very flashy and fun to look at. So people are able to do it on their own. So I'm just wondering what's holding him back. Is it ever going to come back or come out? We have no idea. And it's only been 2 years since it was released, which for some games isn't a big deal, but it might be a big deal because this is an indie company.
Yeah, no, it looks fantastic. I would be very up for giving that game a try if it ever came to life. Well, that brings us to our next segment, which would be the big beef of the show. We decided last week that we were going to talk about Bethesda, the game developer Bethesda. And as always, when we come up with something like this, I'm going to go through a brief history and synopsis of the game company, Bethesda, where it came from, and hopefully we'll get to where it's going. So Bethesda Softworks is the original name that they went by. It was founded by one Christopher Weaver in Bethesda, Maryland. Of course, Bethesda, Maryland is where Bethesda got its name from. It was founded in 1986 as a division of Media Technology Limited, which is an engineering research and development firm of which Weaver was a founder and CEO. He created Bethesda to, quote, see if the PC market was a viable place to develop games. Vlatko Andanov, I'm very impressed with how I pronounced that, who serves as president of Bethesda, recalls that Weaver had originally wanted to call the company Softworks, but found the name was taken. So our founder, this is his quote, so our founder, sitting at his kitchen table in Bethesda, decided after laborious thought to add Bethesda to Softworks, and there you have it. Sounds like a naming convention that I would use. Bethesda's first title was a sports simulation game called Gridiron, released in 1986. From 1986 to 1992, the company developed a number of games, including several Terminator titles and many sports simulator games. In 1993, Bethesda released the first game in what is likely its most recognizable franchise, The Elder Scrolls Arena. Arena is the first-person action RPG that put a lot of focus on side quests and featured an open-ended world called Tamriel, a world that I have spent probably about 500 plus hours in. Company founder Christopher Weaver is recognized as the principal force behind the creation of the game. The Elder Scrolls Arena was developed for the computer and released via CD-ROM and floppy disk.
Developed by the computer. Terminator!
I cannot fathom how many floppy disks it would have taken to store all of that. Do you remember the first iteration of WoW, how many CD-ROM disks they needed to make that game?
I can't remember.
Wasn't it 6?
It was a lot.
6 discs for OG WoW and 4, I think, for Burning Crusade. Oh. Bethesda released its second title in the Elder Scrolls series in 1996 called The Elder Scrolls II: Daggerfall. That was released for the PC. Next, in 1999, Bethesda Softworks was acquired by ZeniMax Media Incorporated, a company founded Weaver himself and current ZeniMax Media CEO Robert A. Altman. So in 1999 to 2001, Bethesda developed and published many sports and racing titles like NIRA Intense Import Drag Racing, Skip Barber Racing, PBA Bowling 2001, IHRA Motorsports, as well as an adventure game, Sea Dogs, and an action game, Echelon. In 2002, Bethesda released the third title in the Elder Scrolls series, The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind, for Windows PC and Xbox. The game was, at the time, one of Bethesda's most successful titles, selling over 4 million copies and winning numerous awards. 2 expansion packs were released for the game, The Elder Scrolls III: Tribunal in 2002 and Blood Moon the next year in 2003. In 2006, The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion was released, published by 2K Games, receiving the best reviews of any of the Elder Scrolls games and selling over 3 million copies as of January 18th, 2007. I'd be curious to see what an updated number is for that one. Bethesda developed and published its latest title in 2007, Fallout 3.
Did you ever play, going back to a bit, did you ever play Oblivion?
I did. Actually, one of the things I wanted to get into at the very end was all of the Bethesda games that I have had experience playing and a short little synopsis, my impressions of the games.
All right, we'll return later then.
Yeah. To be continued. In
Segway.
I thought you captured that sound clip.
Oh, I did.
I haven't heard you use it at all.
I used it once.
Very disappointed. Did you?
Yeah.
Segway.
All right, moving on. 2004, Bethesda.
That's the perfect gap to put in Segway.
Segway.
For no reason other than to do it.
All right, Softworks bought the rights to the Fallout IP from Interplay Entertainment and started development on Fallout 3 the same year. The executive producer for the game was Todd Howard, who was involved in different capacities in all of the principal titles of the Elder Scrolls series, and was project lead for the Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind, and executive producer for the development of the Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion. Fallout 3 was released in North America on October 28th, 2008 for the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. The game has become Bethesda's best-selling game to date. Now, this is from an older article, so I'm sure that's old information. Shipping 4.7 million copies of the game internationally for the first week and producing a profit of $300 million. That blows my mind. In 2009, the company released a staggering 5 pieces of Fallout 3 DLC for the 360, the PS3, and the PC. 5 DLCs. At QuakeCon 2010, Todd Howard revealed that Bethesda was currently working on 2 projects. The first was revealed to be The Elder Scrolls V, which is Skyrim, on December 11th, 2010 at the Spike VGAs, with a projected release date of November 11th, 2011. The second game had yet to be revealed, but was in pre-production. The studio went on to win the Spike Video Game Awards Studio of the Year in 2011. Things went quiet for Bethesda for 4 years, pumping out DLCs but no new titles until the release of Fallout 4 and Fallout Shelter. Fallout Shelter is Bethesda's first mobile title in which the player is responsible for building and managing an underground shelter and build a small colony from refugees and offspring and explore the radioactive waste for tech and supplies. The title gained 50 million players by mid-2016. In February 2017, Howard said that they were in development of another mobile title following onto the success of Fallout Shelter. This was revealed in 2018 to be The Elder Scrolls Blades, which is the one that I just downloaded and am interested in giving a try. Yeah, so that is the history of Bethesda Gaming. Now I'm going to hand it over to you, Jeff. I am super excited to hear what you have for us.
So as Daniel said, Bethesda is well known for its knockout titles in the Elder Scrolls and Fallout franchises, but before I explore its list of stellar games, let's take a quick look at its name. Bethesda got its name from a church called the Bethesda Meeting House. And without getting into a religious rant, let me summarize where the name actually originally comes from. In Jerusalem, Israel, in the Muslim quarter, there are remnants of a bathhouse called the Pools of Bethesda. According to the New Testament book of John, Jesus came here to perform miracles to cure the paralytic. Now, does the gaming company tie its namesake to these events? Not necessarily. No. It was just more along the lines of, like Daniel said, being founded in the town of Bethesda. It's pretty simple, but I like to look at word origins, so live with it. Shortly after its birth, Bethesda this is something that Daniel covered just now. I'm going to move on a little bit. Instead of doing a full history like Daniel did, I decided I wanted to instead talk just about their history with games. The thing is, Bethesda churned a lot of lesser-known older titles before Morrowind came along and really cemented their place in the gaming industry. They came out with Daggerfall and Arena before this, but Morrowind was such a breakout hit that it sort of decided their future. So for those of you who don't know, Bethesda is the developer and in some cases publisher in other games. They've done a few Pirates of the Caribbean games and a few Star Trek games. They took control for Doom 2's switch to consoles and published other AAA titles such as Rage, Dishonored, the new Wolfenstein games. There is one thing all of these games have in common, though, that has become a staple synonymous with Bethesda, and that one similarity is open world games. Of course, we all know and love at least one Elder Scrolls game for their expansive maps, for having the freedom to go wherever we want in these worlds whenever we want. And that raging success has poured over into Fallout, and to a lesser extent, surely their solely published games as well, such as Dishonored and Rage. No one ever said a AAA game published by a AAA game developer would always be good, though. Rage was one such contender. It was hyped up the wazoo, and enjoyed its time in the limelight before gamers began completing it and weighing in with proper reviews. It received an average score of 6.5 out of 10, which in the gaming world of reviews is really, really not good. That's very, very, very bad. Gamers like to give their games a review of either 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. So anything below 9 out of 10 is generally pretty bad. Other than the marring score from Rage, Bethesda has luckily skimmed through its lifespan with stellar release after stellar release, both the games it designs and the games it publishes. Bethesda has always seemed to know what they're doing. Only the recent Fallout 76 has given audiences any reason to doubt Bethesda's capabilities, but given its long history of massive and awesome games, it hardly feels like a speed bump. For me, though, what is perhaps its greatest strength is that it hasn't sold out to a massive conglomerate, technically. As Daniel said before, it is owned by ZeniMax, but it has been owned by ZeniMax almost since its conception. So my opinion of it can't objectively be affected by its parent company. I like to look at all these game publishers and developers as spoiled rich kids. A lot of them blow it all, but Bethesda's like Batman. It used its proverbial eternal wealth wisely and still stands as a hero today. Where Blizzard eventually sold out to Activision and then let decisions be made for them, Batman took control of his own life. I'm losing track of my metaphor. But this is a glowing praise for me because I loved Blizzard before Activision and have legitimate concerns about the company as it stands now. I don't think it's going to go under, but there are things that have happened in Blizzard that sort of make me a little bit worried.
Directional changes, course corrections, things that, like you say, make a person feel a little trepidatious.
Yes. I always had pride in BioWare as well, as it's based out of the city I live in, Edmonton. But around 2007, it fell under the umbrella of EA Games, and I feel its quality of games has dropped considerably since then. Bethesda, ever the champion, stands above and apart, and I hope they never change. I hope 76 remains as the single real blemish for them, that they regain their stride and continue to kick ass. Compliments aside, they have had their fair share of controversy and trouble. In 2001, they published Echelon in North America, a game developed by Russian company Madia. There were concerns by the developer regarding Bethesda paying for box copies, and though the dilemma was never taken to court, it undoubtedly questioned their trust with other developers. Human Head Studios, the developers of Prey, were the almost victims of a hostile takeover by Bethesda and ZeniMax, and the financial turmoil for the developer that resulted from the conflict allegedly led to their being unable to release Prey 2. While Bethesda now controls all creative rights to Fallout, it was initially developed by Interplay Entertainment, an equally successful company that created games like Baldur's Gate and the Descent series, Icewind Dale, stuff like that. After Fallout trademark infringement brought both companies to court, Interplay walked away with $2 million, and Bethesda walked away with all of Fallout's rights, in addition to the option of making an MMO variant of Fallout, which effectively became what Fallout 76 is today. In 2011, ZeniMax filed a lawsuit against Mojang, known for the Eternal Minecraft game, who were developing a game called Scrolls. According to ZeniMax, copywriting Scrolls as a name conflicted with the Elder Scrolls. This conflict was peacefully settled. In 2018, Behavior Interactive, the developer that had helped them put Fallout Shelter on mobile phones, copied the blueprint of the game and used it for another franchise in Westworld. They were immediately challenged for their actions and quickly submitted. Now you might be wondering why I bring to light this dust in their closet, but it's mostly because Bethesda has been a relatively clean and successful company. It's not often that you have to dig for the bad stuff for such a popular developer/publisher. Lastly, for me, I need to bring up Fallout 76, the game that left die-hard fans ruffled. In addition to the regular riff-raff of newly released games, such as glitches and bugs, 76 was also criticized for its gameplay design and near absence of NPCs, which is, of course, non-player characters. Its deluxe edition advertised a canvas duffel bag exclusive item that ended up being made of nylon when it was delivered to the audience. Bethesda's response to the subsequent backlash was to offer an in-game currency equal to 5 real dollars, because they simply did not have enough materials to ship that many duffel bags. But failing to notify their customers beforehand and compensating with a value that was likely less than the value of the duffel led to even more outrage. The website changed the description of the duffel bags from canvas to nylon only after the complaints started rolling in, indicating an attempt at gouging customers. This outrage deepened when fans found out that the real canvas duffel bags did exist and had been given to select online influencers. So basically, streamers and YouTubers. To rectify their failings, Bethesda promised the real duffel bags to people who owned the Power Armor edition of the game. And when the people put in their online tickets to queue for the bag, a security flaw in Bethesda's system ended up exposing those ticket details. Luckily, however, excluding personal information. At the end of the day, I'm not a Fallout player, I'm an Elder Scrolls player. I've played Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, almost all to completion. And though I haven't touched Elder Scrolls Online, that's mostly due to the fact that I only ever want to play one MMO at a time, and WoW has always been my dominant MMO. And the other games, like Doom and Wolfenstein, Rage, I've played all these games that I'm listing. I've played them all, and I've enjoyed them all. Rage was kind of sucky. I sided with the people that didn't like it. But overall, like, Bethesda just does not disappoint ever.
With the exception of that one skeleton.
The bag was weird because it's just a bag. I would have been one of the customers that received the bag and been like, okay, whatever, and just moved on with my life. I wouldn't have really... It's not a big deal to me, but obviously it's a huge deal to some. In fact, there's a co-worker at work that had he was the part of the outraged customer base. He ordered the deluxe edition or whatever it's called and got this stupid, weak, lame nylon bag, and he was like super disappointed, and he said he was just outraged. Like he has sworn off Bethesda games because of it. And I'm like, dude, it's a bag. Like, can you blame them? Like, honestly, if I mean, they should have been prepared. I agree, but at the same time, if 40 million people, or whatever the number was, maybe even just 4 million people, all get this deluxe edition, sometimes you're just not prepared for that amount of orders.
Yeah. Yeah, but so the question remains: was it a logistical issue, or was it the bags never came in? Maybe on their end they ordered the bags, and the people they ordered from weren't able to deliver on that size of an order.
Their explanation was they had a shortage of the canvas material. So it's entirely possible that they were just short on it. But yeah, you'd think that, because not that I'm sort of in management, and you go to order a paper product. So we sell mats and paper products and towels and stuff like that. And for those of you interested, I work for UniFirst. It's a big international North American company. And what's interesting about it is your customer says, dude, we need this type of paper towel. Get it to us. And you're like, okay. And you go to your stock shelves. We're one of the main locations in Canada, and so we have all of the stock gets mailed to us first, or delivered to us first. We go in to the stock department, and they're not there. And you're like, okay, I guess we have to order some. You contact your supplier, and they're like, oh, we don't have any. You have to wait a week. And you're like, okay, what am I supposed to tell the customer now? So you phone the customer and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I just don't have it. We can't have it until next week. And then your customer freaks out. And you're like, well, there's literally nothing we can do. Like, it's like a weird... I understand from Bethesda's point of view, if they were actually short on the canvas, in their like situation, they would have been unable to actually do anything about it.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's frustrating too. On my end, I have a similar experience with fertilizer product. I mean, if we run out of product and a farmer is there to pick up fertilizer, there's nothing we can do about. we can't make it just materialize in the bin. You know what I mean?
Right.
It needs the depot needs to have it to ship to us, and we need to be able to get trucks to ship it, from the depot to us. So there's several links in the chain that you just, a lot of times it's just out of your control. The trucking company might be hauling frac sands and they're just, sorry, we got no trucks for you.
Yeah.
So you do your best to line up the logistics, but at the end of it all, 50% of the time things don't work out, and you just have to understand that that's life. Life is full of disappointments. You try and mitigate your risks as much as you can, but like I said, at the end of the day, some of it is just out of your control. As somebody that doesn't actually play very widely, we kind of covered in our very first episode that Jefferson is the one that plays widely, and I'm the kind of guy that plays pretty exclusively and obsessively over, one or two games at a time. So of the titles that I have played, the Bethesda titles anyhow, I did sink about 30 to 50 hours, somewhere around there, into Elder Scrolls Morrowind. This was back when I borrowed that. Actually, I borrowed that from you, Jeff, on my Xbox 360. No, my original Xbox, first Xbox, big tanks.
Yeah, Xbox One. Oh, I guess stupid Xbox.
Xbox, not one, but the first one. Stupid naming conventions.
That's the worst convention ever.
Agreed. And honestly, it was interesting. The depth of the game was fantastic. Again, as somebody that's like really turned off by the visuals of a game, I wasn't super enthused by how the game looked, especially in first-person mode. I thought it was a little goofy to have that weapon hanging up beside your screen all the time. However, looking at the Elder Scrolls Arena game, which I never did play, I'm just looking at photos of it, I can see that it's a very thematic thing. Even up until this point, like the current Skyrim game, your character runs around with this weapon in the corner of the screen that you can see all the time, which would make no sense at all for you to just carry a sword out in front of you as you're running across Tamriel. It would look a little hilarious. So it makes no sense for you to actually be able to see your weapon as you're moving. What?
Running? I jumped all over. That would look even weirder.
You're a spacebar surfer, are you?
Do you not remember acrobatics? Oh my gosh. Why did they take that from me in Skyrim?
What?
Don't you remember that in Morrowind and Oblivion?
No.
You had an acrobatics skill.
I didn't know that. I didn't play those games that much, apparently. I remember standing there and punching a crab for about 5 hours in Morrowind to try and get my unarmed combat up, which was completely useless. Completely useless.
All right, you're don't speak ill of something you don't understand.
Well, like I said, I only put about 30 to 50 hours in the game. I didn't get unarmed too often, or disarmed. And then Oblivion, I went over to a friend's place and played it for a couple of hours. That's as much experience as I had with Oblivion.
Oh,
I really got into
you're hurting me.
I'm sorry. And it wasn't even your house.
Was it the other Jeff?
It was the other Jeff.
Damn him!
But where I really sunk my claws into Bethesda was when Skyrim finally hit. I estimate that I played between 350 and 400 hours on my 360 playing Skyrim. I played the vanilla experience extensively. I got a warrior, a thief, and a mage all up to the max level, and played through the entire quest lines. Like, there was, I think on some of them there was still some quests, but I remember on I think it was my thief, had nothing left, no quest left in the entire game until the Dawnguard DLC, and then I played the crap out of that one. And then the Hearthfire DLC didn't have a heck of a lot of content beyond the ability to just create your own home, build your own house and kit it up and outfit it. And that was one of those things where it was kind of not necessarily exciting gameplay, but super relaxing. Actually, I found it oddly it was entertaining in a different way, that I could come home after a day of work or a day of studying, and I could sit there and just unwind, just building my house, just gathering materials and building my house. And it's a curious type of gameplay, one that I was completely, I guess, not ready for, but found it very enjoyable. I don't know if you had the same experience, Jeff.
Well, my experience was a bit more in depth, obviously. I would say Daggerfall, I probably only put about 20 hours into, and that was more experimental. I didn't know the franchise at the time, and it was just goofing around in a weird game. And like you, Morrowind was really my entry level Elder Scrolls game. And with Elder Scrolls Morrowind, it was jarring because I had never played a game that was so open, and it starts off promising to the little innocent me back then, where you could just go into the one building, decide your class, and then go out into the world. And the whole class decision making process was a huge process. You could either just choose a class and be boring about it, or you could answer weird moral and ethical questions to decide what kind of class you are based on your personality and what choices you would actually make in real life. And it felt like there was 30 questions just to decide your class, or you could go full custom mode and just do whatever the heck you wanted to, because at the end of the day, potentially you could max out all your skills, and it didn't matter. It was just the starter, right? And like you said, the punching the mud crab thing. Let me tell you, people, I have 180 hours into Morrowind on Steam, and I played the Xbox version way more than that. I could not even posit a guess at how many hours I spent on the Xbox version, but I completed all the guild quests for all the guilds that I could join. Obviously, there was a few that conflicted with each other, like the Morag Tongue, for example, wouldn't let you in if you joined, I think, the Thieves Guild or something like that. There was stuff like that throughout, but then there was also things like random side quests. There was the main story that you had to do. There was exploring every block of the stupid map, and there's just so much to do. And it got to the point where I was just like, well, I'm the kind of person that I like to do all the side stuff first. So with Morrowind, with Oblivion, and with Skyrim, I would do all the side stuff, and by the time I got to the main story, I would be bored. Luckily for Morrowind, I did all the side stuff, and I was like, I am an elite champion of the game! And I started going through the main story, and right away, it hit me that, I got a disease that I can't cure. And I was like, what does this mean for me? Does this mean my character's gonna get weaker and weak? What? Why did I spend all that time? So then I was like, I need to keep playing the main quest, otherwise my character might die, and I didn't want to die. I thought it was a timed thing or something. And as you go through the game, you become the Neverream or whatever it's called, and you become immune to all diseases. You have the worst disease, but because of I forget how it works, but because of another disease or something, it makes you immune to everything. And you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm immune to all diseases, and I'm super strong. This is awesome. And yeah, it was Morrowind. I remember being super action packed, but every time I go back to play it now, the last time I played it was in 2012, according to Steam. But
Wow.
Every time I do play it, it's a very, very relaxing, because I don't feel any urgency, because I've done everything before. Oblivion was the first game that I actually beat in the Elder Scrolls franchise. So what ended up happening with me is Morrowind came out. I had it on the Xbox. I played it a whole bunch, and then Oblivion came out, and I hadn't beat Morrowind yet because I didn't commit time to games back then like I do now, and I just didn't have the time to beat it before Oblivion came out. And then Oblivion came out. I got that for my computer because it was a much higher fidelity game that my parents' new computer could handle. So I got Oblivion, started playing that, and I was instantly hooked into Oblivion. And so I was in this weird case of being addicted to both games at the same time. And I beat Oblivion, I think like 2 or 3 weeks before I beat Morrowind. And with Oblivion, I didn't do all the side quests first. I did a few, but then I kept getting sucked back into the main quest because it sends you through the Oblivion gates, and that's such an interesting process and everything. And it was really invigorating. And then I would want to go back to Morrowind because I had a super powerful character in Morrowind, but then I come back to Oblivion because the lockpicking system was cool, and the way like your weapon schools advanced as your weapon, like your sword skill, it got better and better and better. You would learn new sword swipes and stuff that would make you more deadly, and it was just really, really, really neat. And then of course Skyrim. Skyrim is the kind of game that I've never felt a sense of urgency in that game. There's never a point where I'm like, I gotta go! Even when I get found out by a guard when I'm trying to pickpocket someone. It's very like, oh, I guess I'm caught, and I have thousands of hours of Elder Scrolls experience under my belt, and so I know this process. It's not new. It's familiar, and I like familiar, but it's not new, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way the games are designed, right?
Mm-hmm. There's one feature in Skyrim that I have come to love so much that I measure all other RPGs against Skyrim for this one feature, and that is the character creation screen. So when you, like I have said numerous times to the people in my life, how much I wish that Warcraft followed the same style. And what I'm talking about is that every single facial and body feature is on a slider. Pretty much every single feature is on a slider. So you can customize your characters so much. You can make them look like a celebrity. You can make them look like yourself. You can make them look like an important figure from history, depending on which humanoid race you choose. Now, there's some animalistic races too that have the same level of customization. They don't end up looking like human beings after, but you get what I'm trying to say. That every single part of their face and body is within your control. Now maybe the polygon count could be a little bit higher. Maybe the fidelity's not where I would like it to be, but I'm really hoping that the next Elder Scrolls game satisfies that you're going to have, instead of a character that has 6,000 polygons, maybe it has 60,000. It's a lot more believable, I suppose. But either way, the ability to narrow the eyes, to widen the eyes, to make the eyes larger, make them smaller, change the pupil size, change the iris size, like it's incredible, the amount. And you don't have to it's not a question you have to answer with every single facial feature. You can choose to skip right past it if that's not your deal. I'm the kind of guy that likes to sit there and I could make a character for an entire hour, just trying to make a character look like somebody, or make them look like me, or just make them look stinking cool.
Now,
I wish other games had that same feature.
Other games do have that same feature. You're just a sweet summer child. The two games that immediately spring to mind for me was The Sims and Dark Souls. But like Dark Souls,
which I've spent much time in.
Yeah, like Dark Souls, Skyrim, it gives you intense control over all these things that you just mentioned, but then later on you end up wearing a helmet, and the whole time that you're playing, you're looking at the back of your character's head anyway, if you're not doing first-person mode, right? Like it's features that you're never ever going to look at. In Dark Souls, especially with speedrunners, you can save presets of faces that you've previously made, and in Dark Souls, what speedrunners will do is they'll make their character look as dorky or ugly as humanly possible, because unlike Skyrim, which is a realistic depiction of somebody's face, Dark Souls allows you to change your skin color to anything in the color palette. So it allows you to go really weird and creepy with it.
So you could make a character that looks like Thanos.
Oh yes.
Oh, I'm in.
Only as far as the face goes. The body adjustments are much more limited. You can make it like a skinny person, a medium person, or a bulky person. But the bulky person isn't that much bigger than a medium person, etc.
Yeah, I wish WoW would do that. I mean, we have skinny Kultirian models now. We have really bulky Kultirian models, and we have the regular humanoid models. Why can't we do that? Why can't we choose
I feel
that?
like it's less about giving the player variety and more about you'd have to design every helmet to be able to fit. Because in like Dark Souls, you can make your character's face extremely wide and purple and all these different things, but if you put a helmet on, sometimes your face just clips through the helmet and it just looks bad.
Yeah,
Now, obviously, speedrunners don't care about this, but the designers, I'm sure, do.
I don't know that I buy that excuse because they already make it so that it fits that same helmet fits on a worgen, fits on a goblin, fits on a human, fits on a gnome.
Yeah, but all they do is size up the helmet or size it down.
Sure.
They don't change its shape for the width of their head, or if they have crazy hair, they just make the hair fit inside the helmet. Like they do lazy things to make it work.
Well, the way it would work in my head, if I were a game designer, I would just have anchor points, where you'd have anchor point A on the face, anchors to point B on the inside of the helmet, and then the helmet sizes according to that.
Bethesda, ladies and gentlemen! It all comes down to character design. I want purple skin!
Did you ever play Fallout Shelter on the phone?
Yes.
You did, eh?
Yeah, I played it before Fallout 4 came out.
When I was doing this research, I was like, wow, okay, 4.7 million players played Oblivion, and that was a raging success. But over 50 million players on Fallout Shelter. It's easy for me to see why Blizzard is spending so much time and so much money developing their mobile titles, because like 50 million versus 4.7 million, it's just a bigger market. It's just huge.
Oh,
everybody is looking for that quick in, quick out, something to do while you're standing in line at the grocery store.
And the thing is, with Hearthstone, it's nice. I'm not going to lie, it's very convenient to have it on your phone. I haven't played it for a while on my phone, but it's convenient nonetheless. Yeah. But with Hearthstone, it's like a 20 to 30 minute game. Unless it's a low rank match or the person quits early, it's going to be a long game. And people on their phones want to sit down for 5 minutes on the toilet or something and get out of there. And I think Hearthstone is kind of counterintuitive. But the Diablo Immortal thing, I don't know. I've seen video of what that game would entail, and that looks like it would be like a long slog as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to. It does look like a sit down and play for 4 hours kind of game, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want to sit down on my phone for 4 hours. I want to sit down at my computer for 4 hours. You know, it's a weird. Why? I don't know what they're trying to do. It's like they don't understand the mobile market.
So what are you judging this from? Just the video that was at last year's BlizzCon?
No, somebody on YouTube showed the mirror game, the game that it looks exactly like Diablo Immortal that exists in China.
Okay.
And I was just looking at that, and I was like, yeah, this is like, how do you escape the game? It looks just like Diablo 3 running around in Diablo 3, and if you get into a rift in Diablo 3, you're suddenly committed to that rift unless you want to leave the game and sacrifice the reagents required to make the rift. And then it's just, I don't know, it seems kind of counterintuitive to me, that's all. I'm not really attached to Diablo Immortal anyway, because from the very beginning I thought that was for the once in my life I was with the vast majority, and I said, no! Get out. Well, I think that about wraps up this episode. What did you think about it, Daniel?
I thought it was pretty great, actually. I did enjoy the topic. I like learning more about Bethesda, learning how to tie some of the games to the developers. I have a problem with video games, just like I do with music. I remember the artist and I remember the song, but I rarely remember how to attach the song or which artist sang which song, and I have the same problem with video games. So it's good now. I'm able to start adding or marrying up some of these titles with the developer, and hopefully as we go forward and we discuss a few more of these, I will be able to round out a little bit more of my background. So I quite appreciate it, Jeff.
Yeah, and I mean, ever the try hard, I feel like if we're going to take this podcast to higher heights, I think game journalism is very important, and learning which developers and publishers do what is a really big part of that. As always, everyone, you can contact us at Twitter at Podcast TLDR. That's Podcast TLDR without the T. The T is pushed together. It's a bad choice in hindsight. Just live with it. Our email is tldrpodcast@gmail.com, and our YouTube is, of course, youtube.com/tldrpodcast. Next week, Daniel, what are we talking about?
Right on. I'm really excited for our topic next week. We're going to be talking about VR and AR. That's virtual reality and augmented reality. The challenges that have assaulted it yesterday, today, and what the future looks like for VR and AR. So that's going to be an exciting topic, Jeff, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, Daniel. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
Well, I think that about wraps. Shut up. Well, I think it was the... Damn it. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I can still start this out. Okay. Well, I think that about wraps up this episode. It was a hell of a ride, Daniel. How did you think about it?
I thought that it was pretty great.
Stop it! Let's do this again!
How did you think about it?
Ah!
I was just gonna go with it, but that are good English.